So, Dino-vember, right? And here we have Dinosaur Planet for Dino-vember. It's by Anne McCaffrey. This is a paperback. It came out in 1978. I'm pretty sure. This was after Anne McCaffrey had moved to Ireland and after the success of a couple of her Pern novels. I clearly do not have a 1978 edition. That would be way too fancy for my reading tastes. What I've got here is this, I think it's 1999 Orbit printing paperback, which was in quite good condition until I realised it had been folded down here a little bit. Don't think you can see it. Other than that, the spines were good and probably never read. Now this artwork is a nice wraparound, very dinosaur-y, and I'm 99% sure I know who the author is. Oh, but of course do not bother to credit the author in this book. But there you go. I, however, am pretty certain that it is by Mark Sawolski. Mark Salwowski. Okay, he uses V's on his website, and ISDV spells it with W's. Who knows? Let's say Salwowski. He has got some really spectacular art under his belt. He did a lot of the E&M Banks, and he's done several books I've got covers for. He's done a lot of Bryan as well, and some John Wyndham, which I don't have. But yeah, great artist. Well worth checking out his repertoire. And if you look at this book and book number 2, which I also have, it's clearly quite certain that he loves his dinosaurs. So he's perfect for this book called Dinosaur Planet. So what does this book contain? Anne McCaffrey, who I'm very fond of, wrote considerably in a particular world building, galaxy building, universe building, whatever, where the federated sentient planets were a big deal. There's an argument to be made that most of her books were set in there. I think Pern is arguable, but certainly ones like The Ship Who Sang are definitely federated sentient planets, as are her Crystal Singers, which are probably my favourite books by her. Decision at Duna, I'm not sure about that one. That is a very early First Contact novel. I think people try to retrofit it into the federated sentient planets, and I'm not convinced. However, Dinosaur Planet is very much clearly there. And it tells us all about it, because we start with a mission from the Exploratory and Evaluation Corps, the EEC, on the planet of Areta. Areta. And we start off with its leader, Kai, and we're introduced to his co-leader, Varian, with whom we're told he's in a relationship. And it's this lush green planet revolving around a third-generation sun, possible third-generation sun. And they're looking for mineral deposits, but they're also cataloguing anything else, like animals, plants, etc. Now, Areta is the 4th planet in the sun, and the Exploration Corps have always also dropped 2 other of the sentient races from the 8, I think, sentient federated group on 2 different planets. So the human team are alone on Areta, but there are 2 more in the system with whom Kai communicates. One is a bird species that talks very, very fast, and the other is a mineral silicate style life form which talks very, very slowly. So there's that. Now Areta is proving a puzzle for the staff of this exploration planet from the start. It shows every signs of having metal deposits, uranium deposits, the mineral deposits, things that they're actually actively after, but it's not showing any actual deposits. And they're mapping it, and they're setting these beacons while they're mapping the other things. Hello, dinosaur. Would you like to join us? Come on, little dinosaur. Oh, no, he really didn't want to join us. Ah, well. Hello, little dinosaur. Come on, don't be angry. Say hello to your fans. Or not. So the biologists on the team are equally puzzled. They've got a large number of species which don't show signs of having evolved on the same planet, we're told. And my first problem with this novel really started there. We've got Bryan, the co-leader of the team, who is saying, oh, well, these land-based animals with red blood, hemoglobin, iron-based blood on the land shouldn't exist on the same planet as these marine dwellers that have got some sort of clear fluid instead. And that is so wrong. I'm not sure if this is one of the things that put me off this book when I was originally reading it. I'm not sure if I read it before or after I studied science. But let's look at cephalopods in the ocean. They don't have an iron-based blood. They don't have hemoglobin. They've got a copper-based blood. So this notion that their exobiologist has picked this out as incorrect is completely wrong. Anyhow, I'm going to guess that Anne McCaffrey at this stage of her life at least was not... I mean, she was trying to do a thing. It didn't work for me. So anyway, the exobiologist and second leader Bryan at the start is fussing about all these inconsistencies. We're introduced to quite an extensive team. And they've got people who are mapping, they've got people who aren't, and we're introduced to the fact that there's two subsets of humanity in this group. There's humans and there's heavy worlders. Heavy worlders are humans who settled heavy world planets, and they've evolved a completely different culture as well as much heavier bones and muscles. They're stronger, they are less socially apt, perhaps, and they tend to form their own conclaves and not interact with the others too much. So, the FSE has, it's a confederate of 18 species. I took down that, some of which we encounter in other books. And Andreea's son is called Araton. The other two species that have been dropped in the system are Thek, that's the mineral ones, and Rexy, which are the avian intelligence. And the Rexy have actually been planted, which is to say they're colonizing that planet. The Thek live a very long time and take a very long time to answer and think about things. So they're happy to be there for a long time. But our team are getting a bit worried. After they were dropped by the exploration vessel took off to another system where there was some major star event happening, and they have not been picking up their messages, and they have not been getting back to them. Which is why one member of the planet, I think he's the botanist, though I'm not sure, starts making up these conspiracy theories that they have been planted, which is to say that they've been dropped there against their will to colonize the planet. Kai, the leader, is very much against this notion. He says they're the wrong composition, there's not enough people to form a healthy genetic pool, and they're the wrong age groups. Now, I didn't love this book. So far I've said nothing that was spoilers, and I can go considerably more. What's the matter? You want to come? You don't want to come. You don't want to be a dinosaur in the dinosaur book movie. No, you don't. No spoilers so far, and much deeper, because I can't spoiler what the back of the book has already said now, can I? If you're planning on reading this for Dino-November, by the way, I would recommend, if you've not yet read the back of the book, don't. Just read the book. Now, I, as a reader, know that this is about dinosaurs. How do I know that? There are hints, right? The team don't. The team are waltzing around this planet. One of the geologists calls it a Mesozoic-style planet. And they're reporting all these species as if they don't recognize them. But they're clearly dinosaurs. They call Mr. Fangface, they call T-Rex Mr. Fangface or Toothy or something like that. but they've described a Tyrannosaurus rex. You've got all these herbivores that a dinosaur enthusiast is going to know quite strongly what a lot of these species are. But these people are pretending like they don't. And it's a bit perplexing, to be honest, because you've got a xenobiologist who's spent her whole life studying animals on various planets. They clearly, in this little corner of the FSC, wherever it is, they clearly have Earth animals. They talk about other planets on which there's horses and cows and chickens and dogs and stuff. So they know Earth animals. The geologist clearly knows what the Mesozoic is, and the Mesozoic is a geological era specific to Earth. Earth is never mentioned in this, and Anne McCaffrey in general is very hands-off about mentioning Earth in any of her FSC stories, except for Decision and Duna, where they are actively trying to escape an overloaded Earth. But I don't think Earth is mentioned even once in the Crystal Singer novels. And we're left with the impression that the FSC universe that she's created has moved away from Earth and it's no longer relevant. But it may not be relevant, but you would still expect a xenobiologist to know what a dinosaur was. And early on, someone who has the earlier copy, you have got a woman cradling a small proto-horse. And how can you be a xenobiologist if you don't know anything about the biology of Earth? It makes no sense. So the first half to 2/3 of this book are difficult for me to read and enjoy because I keep saying this makes no sense. Anyhow, in the very late half, we find out that one of their scientists brought all his spools with him and he knows about dinosaurs. So all of a sudden, they suddenly know they're dinosaurs. But that's too late for me. It's like if I've picked up a book called Dinosaur Planet and it's got dinosaurs on the cover and you've got a trained xenobiologist there, how does she not recognize a Tyrannosaurus rex? A T-Rex is as recognizable as the Mona Lisa in this world. So I can't. Now, I had time to be annoyed over these small things because for me, this book didn't really take off and it didn't really land. As I read it, it was clear that I had read it before, and I wasn't sure about that when I bought this. This wasn't in my collection. I had to go out and buy these two books, and I'm very glad I found them, and I think they were only $2. No regrets. I was pretty sure I'd read this. I thought I'd read this a long time ago, more than 10 years ago, and I didn't expect to remember it because I couldn't, off the top of my head, remember what was in it. But as soon as I picked it up, in the first couple of pages, I went, yeah, I do remember a lot of this. So I read it, and then I didn't keep the books. And for younger omnivorous reader, that is a bad sign. If there was a book that I read and didn't keep, it was probably because I expected to never read it again. And this is, I'm very sorry, not a great book. It fails to engage. The characters are not ones that you can bond with, and their concerns frequently make no sense. Their actions, whilst logical and thought out in their own sphere, are hard for us to relate to if we've read the back of the book, which I'll reserve for a spoiler section. Anne McCaffrey, I feel, had planned out this book too carefully and had not really thought out some things. Now, one person whose reviews I read on Goodreads has made a very interesting point, and I don't know if it's true or not, but their concept is that Dinosaur Planet was something that McCaffrey wrote much earlier. She either wasn't satisfied with it, or the publishers weren't satisfied with it, but it was never published at the time. Now, when this was published in 1978, McCaffrey had already moved to Ireland, and she'd had great success with a couple of Pern books, but she had a long hiatus after those Pern books, and it seems possible to me that this Goodreads reviewer is correct. The publishers were crying for more books from her. She's a professional writer and a single mum who's trying to put food on the table. She resurrects this manuscript that she knows isn't first water. and gives it to the publishers. They tweak it a bit and they put it out. And that would explain a few serious inconsistencies with this book, especially the fact that it's got 2 plots. Now from here on, if you haven't read it and you haven't read the back of the book, it's going to be a bit spoilery. But not too bad, because after all, the cover itself has already told us what's going to happen. On Earth, they had died 70 million years ago, but on Andreea, they ruled in all their bizarre splendor. Relics from a forgotten age, the dinosaurs roamed a planet as strange as any in the galaxy. Mesozoic, remember? The members of the expedition sent to explore the new world soon find themselves trapped. No, they don't, actually. Book cover is wrong. Blah, blah, blah. Situation goes from bad to worse, sure, for some. For the heavy worlders, half of the expedition's personnel have reverted to type and systematically began to hunt down their colleagues. Yeah, kinda. Yeah, nah, yeah. But the heavy worlders do revolt. And we know that from the back of the book when we first open it. If you don't know that, I'm sorry I spoiled it for you. But so we've got this book, and the 2 mysteries in it, from Anne McCaffrey, the author's point of view, seem to be A, that the mysterious beings on it are dinosaurs that have clearly been brought from somewhere else. And there's other species out there, some of which may have been brought from somewhere else. That's the first mystery. But the cover and the title have revealed it. And the second thrillery mystery thing is that the heavy worlders are revolting. And it's a planned revolt from the get-go. In this particular futuristic scenario of Anne McCaffrey's, citizens of the FSC do not eat other animals. That's not the case in Crystal Singer, but moving on from there. And the very idea of killing and eating animals is disgusting and repulsive, especially to the shipborn. So we've got the separation of the shipborn, who are slightly different from the planet-born, and we've got the heavy worlders, who are something else again. On their world, heavy worlders do eat meat. They are harsh conditions and they have to eat whatever they can to survive. But in order to participate in FSE expeditions, they have to become vegetarian. Once on this planet, they revert to their savage ways of eating meat and hunting animals. And dinosaurs are fun to hunt. We know that. Many, many science fiction and fantasy books have dealt with this concept. So they're sneaking off behind everyone's back, hunting down dinosaurs, roasting them over a cook fire, and engaging in savage practices. Which, it's a bit funny. It is a bit funny. Anyway, they decide that they have actually been planted on the planet, deserted there, and they decide to take all the good stuff, kill off the non-heavy worlders, and make the planet their own, as it were. Though with, I think, 6 heavy worlders, you've got to say their line is going to end pretty soon. And that's the second plot. And we go into this book knowing both of the mysteries and both of the plot streams, and combine that with the writing that doesn't always land, the characters that aren't really that engaging, and the overall feeling that this book really doesn't hang together. It hasn't totally been thought through. It's not that it hasn't been edited. For the most part, it's been edited very well. It's just the story doesn't meet the vibrancy of Anne McCaffrey. Now, having said all that, this is still a good book. If you are not a huge Anne McCaffrey fan and you like classic SFF, you may enjoy this book a lot more than me. But it's one of those things where you've got an author you absolutely love. You see their name on their cover. You've got expectations. And I had much higher expectations for this book than were met. However, not a bad book. It does have dinosaurs. It is #DinoVember, and I have now finished it. I will not get rid of this book again. First of all, I like the artwork. Second of all, as long as it's on my bookshelf, I'll remember it. And also, Anne McCaffrey's in good condition are getting pretty rare, so I feel lucky to have them. Thank you for watching. I am planning to go pretty much straight on to Survivors, Dinosaur Planet #2, and there we've got a T-Rex. Same artist without a doubt. This one I think was written a couple of years later, and as a consequence I will expect a bit more from it than I actually received from Dinosaur Planet. Let us see if my expectations are met. So I'm going to go away and read a good book, and you should too. Thank you very much for watching, however. Do like, comment, subscribe, all those things that the algorithm loves, because we feed the algorithm. It's a thing we do. Bye.